Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our session that comes after a very interesting session where founders are sharing more about their journeys, about their experiences, and they see things from their own perspective, right? Me also today, as a founder, it's very interesting how I see things, but also as an investor, how we all see things. So I'm very happy. We are all teased by the band outside. I know the music is keeping up, but with this panel that I'm very happy to moderate, I'm sure the rhythm will be better, so stay here. I'm very happy to be here with a great panel with investors who are into the venture space across different stages, with Reda, Ekta, and Alex. And actually, I would like to kick it off right away with Reda and say about how an investor is looking at the journey from the very beginning in terms of adding value. How do we add value to the founders? There is funding out there, there is money, but there are founders who need to see the value, the real value from the investors. So how do you, Reda, from your perspective, add value?
Sure. First, thank you for having me, and it's great to see such a successful and active event and see how every year it evolves and how tech is taking a place really in the center of the stages. Maybe just quickly to introduce first who Venture One is. We are a venture builder connected to the Advanced Technology Research Council, which is an entity funded by Abu Dhabi government, which orchestrates applied research from strategy and funding to execution all the way to commercialization. And Venture One is a piece of this puzzle that is in charge of commercializing the technology that comes out of this ecosystem. But one way of doing that is creating ventures from here, from Abu Dhabi, in domains like AI, cryptography, security, and so on and so forth. So we like to be part of the movement of Abu Dhabi to a knowledge economy and to contribute to making Abu Dhabi and the broader UAE transition from a tech investor or a tech adopter to actually a tech maker and a tech exporter. So this was just to give a bit of a context of who Venture One is. Now, to get to your question, I guess as a venture builder, what founders expect from us, besides the resources, the funding resources, is probably three things. The first one is access to our ecosystems of clients. It is extremely important and extremely helpful when we get the founders in the table with clients who need their solutions and clients who are incentivized to make their solutions work. For us, we believe that putting a 60–70% ready product in the hands of a friendly client who genuinely is interested in the success of product is actually much more helpful than getting into a tunnel and trying to invent the perfect product or the perfect solution only in the lens of the founder. The second advantage or the second benefit that the founders get by being part of Venture One is access to an extremely strong R&D platform. So we are linked to the Technology Innovation Institute, where we have 1,200 researchers in 9 research centers, from AI to cryptography to advanced materials to directed energy and so on and so forth. So the ventures have constant access to this R&D platform that serves their needs, help them solve problems, and so on and so forth. Last but not least is our ecosystem of partners. Partnership is extremely important in the venture journey. We give access to these founders and ventures to an ecosystem of technical partners. For example, in TII, we have partnerships with more than 100 universities across the world, where we have direct access to developers, researchers, and so on and so forth. But we also give them access to go-to-market partners that help them get their products out there. So in summary, it's other than the funding resources, it's the client access, it's the R&D platform, and the partners.
Thank you, Reda. Ekta, when we come now to your perspective as a family office as well, right, which is the patient capital and the growth stage where you're focusing, how do you build this partnership, this relationship with value creation with the founders?
Thank you so much for that question. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here till the end of the day. Very interesting question. KBW invests in growth stage companies, and by that definition, first of all, we have already eliminated the operational risk from the business side of things. So what we focus on is the growth. Okay, when we engage with founders, we are mostly in a segment where they are already established in terms of their business model. They're already established in terms of where they're expanding, at least in some part of the world. They're already existing and doing hopefully reasonably well. In many cases, they are revenue positive. Now, in those cases, when they reach out to us, that's mostly when they want to expand in the region. 95% of KBW portfolio today is international. Although we are actively trying to expand it in the region, but when international portfolio companies, when they seek partnership or collaboration for the region, there are various things that they struggle with, and number one is the navigation on the regulatory side of things, which you briefly highlighted as well. When you look at it from outside, the region seems like a massive opportunity. However, when you come inside and try to set up on the operations, then you have to deal or navigate with various segments within region. So Qatar will have its own set of regime. Saudi will have its own set of regime. My friend Firas here is smiling because QFC is doing great work at that. Shout out to you. UAE is doing great set of things, you know. So all these countries, they are all wanting to really provide the best ecosystem for these international companies to come and set up their bases. However, there still is a challenge because they are very segregated, right? There is no one structure, sort of a funnel in which a company can come, do one setup, and khalas, done. No, they still have to deal with a lot of regulatory restrictions for which they need guidance. So that is definitely one. Two is some level of guidance also on the business side of things. Which region, you know, within Middle East also, which specific country would be best for their kind of businesses, which ecosystem would be best for their kind of businesses. So that is the help that they seek. When they draft their business models, they generally want our insights. From somebody on ground point of view. So beyond capital, that know-how adds a lot of value, I feel, and that's what we strive to help them navigate within the region.
Alex, you are leading the venture arm of one of the largest financial services firm, corporation. How do you look? I mean, how do you source your deals? How do you do the criteria setting? And value add, please.
Sure, and hi everyone. Similar question, three different profiles, very different profiles. So this is going to be slightly different answers every time. So for a start, we're predominantly a venture builder. SC Ventures builds ventures. We also invest in the partners we work with the mindset of partnership. And so as a result, you know, think of 35 new companies which we've created over the last few years, and another 20, give or take, minority stakes in the partners that we work with. So from a founder perspective, when we build a venture, the first promise is, well, you will exist. We make them exist. That's the first agreement. Assuming we're convinced that they're onto something, that there's a right to exist, and so we'll walk them through a very rigorous process, which we can demystify a little bit. It's a lot more method than it is magic and intuition. There's a method to first idea and iterating it, getting feedback, iterating again, and ultimately getting to a pitch which we think is worth scaling up, which is a first venture. So that first method is one we impart on them. The second point is now we're operationalizing a venture. Whatever we do, is by definition is going to have to be institutional grade, bank grade. What does that mean? It means, first we don't break the law, but more importantly, no shortcut on financial crime compliance, no shortcut on cybersecurity requirements, no shortcut on technological resilience, no shortcut on ethics, generally speaking. And so an element of building a venture which is genuinely institutional grade, so we can represent with a straight face that this is good for scaling. And so we'll help founders do that, hold their hands at times, and because there's things where people don't know what they don't know, and so we can back it up. And then there's a third stage where now the venture is scaling and will remain until the stage where they're really sort of out there. They will remain operationally involved. Will be involved in business development efforts at times. Will be involved in monitoring various the pipeline or the various things in the venture. At times, look, we're embarking on fundraising now. Your CFO was good from 0 to 1, but now exit the 0 to 1 person and enter the 1 to 10 person, because it's a different phase of life and it's going to be a different set of individuals doing it. And so we get involved in that as well. So it's a very hands-on process of building ventures so they can not only exist on day one, but also thrive and become real things. So they can become Ekta's pipeline, the survivors, and
the survivors come to us.
Exactly, yeah? and populate the marketplace, and by the way, I should mention while we added that we had very little in this part of the world not so long ago. 2-3 years ago, we had 2 nascent baby ventures which are scaling still, but we have now 8 businesses, created very real skilled jobs across the UAE. So there's a benefit to the rigor of that method, which is we're building things that are here to stay and grow and ultimately be very impactful.
Great. And Reda, you mentioned about the venture building at the very beginning, the 0 to 1, in terms of ideas, right? How you come up with the areas to focus, the fields, the industries. Is it something that you keep having on the lab, and how does even AI might affect your decision-making process?
Yeah, I guess I like what Alex said about it's more of a method as opposite to magic. And I think I had a quick chat with Alex before the panel, and I really appreciated how we are trying to do something that Alex went through 8 years ago. I mean, Venture One is 2 years old. We've built 4 ventures so far, but we have couple of them in the pipeline. We've set a strategy and a vision to build 50 tech ventures in the next 10 years. And when I talked to Alex, they built 35 in 8 years. So it's pretty much the same pace. So I'm happy that we had the discussion, and I think we will continue that. For us, we use a simple approach. We have 4 criteria. The first one is the strategic fit. As an Abu Dhabi government-owned entity, we work on sectors that are a priority for Abu Dhabi. So we tag along the priorities of the Emirate, and we are doubling down on these sectors, whether it's security, whether it's environment, energy, renewables, and so on. And we also selected a couple of technology areas where we are doubling down: AI, robotics, autonomous, directed energy, and so on. Now, within this matrix, the second criteria we use is desirability. And this is where in our ecosystem in ATRC, we are 3 entities. Venture One does the venture building, but we have an entity called Aspire. What they do for a living is actually engaging with end users across Abu Dhabi and sourcing problem statements that are worth solving in these sectors using these technologies. So desirability is at the forefront of what we do. As I told you before, the client access is important in what we bring to the table. So we are really having a dedicated entity that only sources problem statements from Abu Dhabi that are worth solving. The third criteria is feasibility. So alongside the Technology Innovation Institute and with our 1,200 researchers, we come up with technical proposals to solve these issues. Now, you would know that the typical UAE client is a very demanding client. The UAE client is a client that has access to best of breed, that has access to resources and so on. So we do not settle for creating a technology that is average We only invest in building solutions that are at least at par with the global benchmark, if not better. And last but not least is scalability. We do not, although it's very important to have an anchor client in the UAE to co-build together, to have a design partner to build your solution, but we do not build solutions that are only catered for the UAE. We build solutions that we want to scale outside, and we want to really push the bar and have Abu Dhabi become an exporter of technology.
And that's where players like Hector's fund, right? I mean, the family
100%.
office can pick it up, and with all the relationships you have around the world, you can open doors, to models that are global, are not only UAE driven. But I saw you, Alex, when Reda was talking about the UAE demanding clients. What's your feedback on that?
Well, not every day in your life do you get to participate in what I call nation building, right?
Yeah.
And this is an instance, and in my mind, the most, certainly one of the most prominent instances of nation building on the planet. And guess what? Nation building lends itself very well to venture building, right? So if a fraction of the vision, and I think it'll be more than a fraction, but if a fraction of the vision gets materialized or materializes over time for the nation, then this has humongous implications for SMEs, supply chains, commerce, trade finance, cross-border flows, the expectations, wealth creation, meaning implying a whole demand from all these constituencies for businesses, services, and the other businesses that we need to build. And so is it a very fertile land for venture building? Absolutely, yes. And I subscribe to that. Now, there's another aspect to it, which is, I think of the UAE as a market. I also think of the UAE as a hub for the GCC, a hub for the region, and beyond, frankly, because, we could also talk about South Asia on the one hand and Africa, specifically East Africa on the other hand. And I find that some of the businesses we have here are really capabilities which we've taken from elsewhere, but bringing to the region with a view to really serve the ecosystem. I mean, Rida, you alluded to an ecosystem of partnerships, which is really important. And there's an element of cross-border partnerships. There's an element of plugging ventures with each other and sort of not necessarily replicating, because every market is different, but transporting capabilities from one market to the next and connecting that, which is really powerful when you get it going. Yeah.
And Hector, what does effective partnership, when you take over all these companies and you invest, right, at a later stage, how do you define effective partnership between an investor and the founders when you sit on the boards, when you talk to them? I mean, are you also by yourself innovative of coming up, on a case-by-case basis with a new model?
Sure. Thank you so much. It's very strategic. Of course, it has to be case-to-case basis when we are talking about partnerships. It has to be very long-term driven as well, because when it comes to investments, it's very easy. We have certain criteria to make an investment. Those criteria are met, great, we go for it. But when it is about partnership, when we are actively engaging, we are actually going to be active investors. In that case, one of the hats is like, what does the region needs? So that's the dual hat we always have. And we only focus on areas that are the target categories for the region. It could be gaming, sports, wellness, fintech. So these are the areas where we are very active, because we know that there is requirement for that kind of technology advancement and technology capital, human capital in these categories in the region. We want them to come here. We want them to have a base here, because then it becomes a win-win game and it actually creates an impact. To your point as well, we are also ticking the mandate, the regional mandate that we have.
What did you see? I think we have only 1 minute here, but very quickly for each of you, I mean, where do we see UAE and the region in 5-10 years from now in terms of VC ecosystem? With a different perspective, each of you, how you look at it.
Well, five years from now? I'm sorry.
5 years from now.
Well, I'm thinking that party's already on, probably. Everybody would be like, okay, khalas. I think we are in the AI world. Many might see it as an AI bubble. I would see it's still a great opportunity, an area to focus on. And we are just scratching the surface when it comes to AI. Lots and lots of companies are actually working on the digital transformation. Forget about AI. So they need to get to AI. We still need to work on the AI infrastructure and so forth. So if you're not on that radar, I would recommend get on that radar, because 5 years from now, world is a different place.
Reda?
Yeah, I guess the AI wave has shown that the UAE can really punch above its weight. And I guess being a technology maker and a technology exporter is where I foresee the UAE in a couple of years. I think there are a lot of efforts that are convergent towards that. The UAE has proven to be an amazing investor in tech, an amazing adopter of tech, an amazing enabler. I think we are in an era where we will be making technologies from here and exporting technologies to the world from here.
Yeah. Alex?
Yeah, so the key word is ecosystem. When we talk about Silicon Valley, we don't talk about Stanford University or the founders, Steve Jobs and the others, or A16Z in isolation. We talk about them as part of an ecosystem, which is a very, very powerful thing to assemble. And it took generations to do this, and it also takes a very deliberate approach to build it one piece at a time. Late stage capital, venture building connected to technology, intellectual capital, super important. Venture builders, founders, technologists, all stages of capital from pre-seed to the middle stage to late stage represented here. Journalists, the regulators, policymakers. That ecosystem is being built, one bit at a time, very rigorously, again, very deliberately. And I think this is a very powerful proposition. Meaning, it should be able to give other centers, such as the Valley, a good run for its money.
Great. And I think we're closing with this very positive note on that UAE is becoming, between East and West, a new type of Silicon Valley. Thank you so much.
Thank you
to my panelists. And thank you all being here. I think the music even outside keeps elevating because such a great panel. Thank you.
Thank you.